The witch hunts and trials that swept through Europe and the American colonies from the 15th to the 18th centuries were periods of intense fear, superstition, and persecution. Thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft and subjected to brutal interrogations and executions. This dark chapter in history was driven by a mix of religious fervor, social tension, and a profound fear of the unknown. Join us on this journey as we unravel the chilling tale of these dark times. Throughout the witch hunt era, many trials were driven by political motives. Rulers and local officials sometimes used accusations of witchcraft to eliminate political rivals or consolidate power. In some German territories, local rulers used witch hunts to demonstrate their piety and commitment to rooting out evil, thereby gaining favor with religious authorities and the populace. Additionally, accusations were often motivated by economic incentives. Property confiscated from executed witches frequently went to the accusers or local authorities, leading to the targeting of wealthier or land-owning individuals to seize their assets. How do you think political and economic motives influence the intensity and focus of witch hunts? In a small German village, the year 1487 marked the beginning of a new era of terror. Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Springer had just published the Malleus Maleficarum, a book that would become known as the Hammer of Witches. Endorsed by the Catholic Church, this guide detailed how to identify, interrogate, and execute witches. The villagers, gripped by fear and religious fervor, saw witches everywhere. Accusations flew, and soon the village square was filled with the anguished cries of those branded as witches. What do you think drove people to trust a book like the Malleus Maleficarum so blindly? Across the ocean, in the New World, the year 1692 brought a similar hysteria to the quiet town of Salem, Massachusetts. The Salem witch trials would become one of the most infamous episodes of witch hysteria. Over 200 people were accused, 20 were executed, and several others died in prison. Spectral evidence, where testimony about dreams and visions of the accused spirit committing witchcraft was admissible in court, played a crucial role. The community was torn apart as neighbors turned against each other. How do you think spectral evidence could hold such power in court during these times? The methods of torture used to extract confessions from accused witches were brutal and creative. Beyond the rack and thumbscrews, devices like the witch's bridle or scold's bridle were employed. This iron muzzle clamped over the head and included a gag to prevent the accused from speaking. Psychological methods were also used, with accused witches often kept awake for days, causing hallucinations and increased susceptibility to confessing under duress. Why do you think such extreme methods of torture were accepted and used widely during witch hunts? In England, during the chaos of the English Civil War, Matthew Hopkins rose to infamy as the self-proclaimed Witchfinder General. Between 1644 and 1647, Hopkins was responsible for the deaths of over 100 women. He used methods like pricking, where needles were used to find insensitive areas believed to be witch marks, and the infamous swimming test. Hopkins exploited the fear of witches to gain power and wealth, leaving a trail of death and misery in his wake. What do you think motivated people like Matthew Hopkins to pursue witch hunting so fervently? In Scotland, the witch hunts reached a fever pitch during the late 16th and early 17th centuries. The North Berwick witch trials, 1590-1592, implicated over 70 people in a supposed plot to assassinate King James VI using witchcraft. King James himself took a personal interest in the trials, even writing a treatise on witchcraft titled Daemonology. The intensity of the Scottish witch hunts was unmatched, with one of the highest per capita rates of execution in Europe. How do you think the involvement of a king like James VI influenced the severity of the witch hunts in Scotland? In 1612, the Pendle witch trials in Lancashire, England, resulted in 10 executions and is one of the best documented witch trials in English history. The accused included 2 elderly women and their families who were scapegoated for the community's misfortunes. Meanwhile, in Germany, the Würzburg and Bamberg witch trials of the early 17th century were among the largest and most brutal, with hundreds of people, including children as young as 7, executed. Why do you think certain regions like Pendle and Bamberg saw such intense witch hunts? In Scandinavia, especially in Sweden and Finland, the witch hunts had a unique character. The Swedish witch hunts often involved children as primary witnesses, who claimed to have been taken to witch gatherings by their parents or neighbors. The Torsaker witch trials in 1675 reached a peak with the execution of 71 people in a single day. Additionally, while the majority of those accused were women, a significant number of men were also targeted. In Iceland, for instance, over 90% of the accused were men. Contrasting with the general European trend and highlighting how local cultural norms influenced the profile of accused witches. How do you think regional practices and cultural norms shape the nature of witch hunts in different areas? As the Enlightenment spread across Europe in the late 17th and 18th centuries, the witch hunts began to decline. Increased skepticism, better legal standards, and changing social attitudes contributed to the end of widespread witch trials. Posthumous pardons were issued, like those in Massachusetts in 2001 for 5 women convicted during the Salem witch trials. The witch hunts left a lasting impact on popular culture and collective memory, serving as stark reminders of the dangers of mass hysteria and the abuse of power. How do you think the Enlightenment changed people's views on witchcraft and superstition? The witch hunts caused deep and lasting scars on communities. Entire families were wiped out, and the social fabric was torn apart as neighbors turned against each other, driven by fear and suspicion. The psychological trauma and mistrust lingered for generations. The judicial procedures used, such as spectral evidence and the swimming test, left a legacy of injustice. In some cases, individuals accused of witchcraft were posthumously exonerated, and the cultural legacy of the witch hunts continues to influence literature, film, and theater, often serving as allegories for other forms of persecution and mass hysteria. What lasting impacts do you think the witch hunts had on the communities and cultures where they occurred? The witch hunts and trials represent a dark period in history characterized by fear, superstition, and injustice. They serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of mass hysteria, the abuse of power, and the consequences of scapegoating vulnerable individuals. Understanding both the well-known and lesser-known aspects of this history can help us appreciate the complexity of human behavior and the importance of reason and justice in society. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the dark times of the witch hunts and trials. If you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and subscribe to Salazar's Timeless Treasures. Leave a comment with your thoughts and questions, and let us know what aspect of witchcraft you would like to explore next. Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll delve into modern interpretations of witches and their role in today's world. Until then, keep the magic alive.